Hey everyone, and what we're going to do is we're going to give this another minute for everyone who registered to come into the meeting room here, and then we'll get started in 1 minute because today is all about work-life balance. All right, everyone, let's get started because I know I'm super excited for this webinar. And it's interesting, every time there's this topic of work-life balance, I know myself, it's always a matter of, I love listening to them. I love learning from webinars like this, but I find it's always nice when there's an element of being realistic, right? Because work-life balance is such a delicate topic that we can think we know what we're doing, and then something happens in life and things go sideways, and then we don't know what to do, and therefore kind of work-life balance doesn't happen. And so with this webinar, we really tried to make sure that when we were creating it, we were really real and realistic about work-life balance. And I think that's my promise to all of you listening, is that all the suggestions, all the techniques, all the perspectives in this all come from a place of thinking, okay, does this sound good in theory, as well as is there a practical component to it? So our goals and our agenda for today is, again, how I just mentioned, we want to get really practical with work-life balance because we want it to be more than a conversation. We want some action. And of course, if we can do this in our lives, ultimately when it comes to wellness, we can create time and space to actually have and follow our healthy habits. So if we can get this work-life balance thing just sorted out at least a little bit, it can make us that much more successful to then practice our healthy habits. And for this webinar, we're going to have two different perspectives, kind of speaking to you specifically as the employee, but then I know many of you who have joined are also managers. When I was looking at the registration list, I was amazed by how many people are in positions of management and leadership. And so for you individuals who also want to think, okay, work-life balance, not only for me, but how can I help people on my team? We're also going to include that perspective too. So work-life balance for you, but also colleagues as well for those in positions of management and leadership. Okay, so we're going to go right into it right now with our first kind of activity for work-life balance. And this one's called the Energy Engagement Map. So again, think of your mindset right now is all about improving our work-life balance. I'll tell you one thing I cannot do is I cannot put more hours in a day. I just cannot. There's 24 hours in a day. No matter how much I personally want to add more hours, make the day longer, I can't. But what I can do is show all of you this activity right here, that instead of just thinking about time management, we also think about energy management, right? If we can a little bit better at managing our energy throughout the day, we can have that much more of an ability to then manage the daily activities and priorities in our day. So with this, it's actually an activity for you. So you can see here on the top left of the screen on this slide, it's asking list your top energy giving or draining regular activities or engagements. So think about things in your life, whether it be activities, environments, different types of interactions, whether you're using certain types of objects, whether it's certain type of people in your life, users, and you're listing 10 of these in theory. So think of this in your mind, and you're thinking, for all these different things that I'm writing down right now, would it be things that are giving me energy or draining my energy? Could be doing the laundry, walking the dog, having meetings, eating, going to the gym, putting the kids to bed, cleaning the house, studying, what have you. All these different kind of, when you think of your day, what do you have to do in a day? You're listing all of these, and then you can see along the x-axis of this, you can see a bar would be going up if it was a positive activity, and a bar would be going low if it was a negative activity. And I'll show you what this looks like actually on the next slide. So you think in your life, okay, what are the different activities that give me energy or drain my energy? What about different types of interactions with people? Whether I'm talking to colleagues or family or a neighbor, is that giving me energy? Is it taking away my energy? Maybe it's every time you feel you're holding your toothbrush in your hand, you feel a jolt of energy. It really energizes you because you love taking care of yourself and oral hygiene, and that's actually giving you energy. So it could be anything in your day that's giving you energy, but also things that are draining your energy. And the whole purpose of this is that if we can get this big picture perspective on our days, and we can actually almost graph our days, then we can actually notice patterns in our day. Because then it's a matter of not necessarily stopping or doing something, right? It's a non-negotiable to eat. We have to eat. We can't necessarily take away eating in our day, and it's going to take up time. But what if we can switch around the times that we eat? What if we can switch around the times that we're interacting with our pet, whether we're taking our pet for a walk or feeding our pet or bathing our pet? Maybe it's certain times we're checking email. You know, we have, essentially, if it's part of your job, we have to check email, but can we tweak the time in our day when we're mostly checking email? And so this is what it's all about, trying to notice different types of patterns. And I'll show you on this next slide what this looks like, and I think it'll come together here. So here's a perfect example of what this looks like. So you can see in this one, instead of doing like bars, like a bar graph, you can easily just plot dots along the x-axis. So you can see in this example for Maggie, you can see a number of different activities she's listed on the left-hand part of that slide, right? Everything from drinking coffee and eating food, commuting, meetings, sleeping, spending time with friends, watching TV. These are all different activities. So you can see the before energy engagement map is the one on the left. The after is the one on the right. What you notice about this is look at the one on the left there. You can see if that x-axis is from the morning till the evening, you can see that there's that part kind of in the latter part of the day where look how low Maggie's energy is. Then perhaps when she gets home, that's when her energy is increasing. And so in this scenario for Maggie, it could be that during the afternoon of work days, energy is just going down and down and down and down. Albeit her evenings, you know, that's when she's exercising and has time to relax and sleep. So the energy giving, but we don't want to just have energy giving in the evenings. It'd be nice if we had energy giving throughout our whole day, that our whole day is kind of maximized. So on the right, if Maggie keeps those same activities, but within her control, just adjusts when she does them, right? Perhaps it's a different time to do a certain type of activity. Again, all within reason, especially if someone's working and their jobs and your jobs, what you can and can't move around. But if you can just switch the sequence a little bit of activities, again, not add anything, not get rid of anything, but just adjust the sequence, maybe then instead of having an energy kind of plummet in our day can be more balanced with energy. And maybe that means we could get more things done. We could be more present in our days if we can just have a nice, even, balanced energy throughout our day. So again, the whole idea is what are the energy giving activities in someone's day? What are the energy draining activities in someone's day? And then thinking about, okay, you know, I can't necessarily, you know, take these away from my life and I can't add any more things to my life. Well, I can just adjust what's already there. And that could be something that's within my circle of control. Whereas again, time management, adding more hours to the day, that's one thing, like I mentioned, I just can't do. But what I can do is possibly manage my energy throughout the day and have my day more balanced with energy. So now it's time to hear from all of you. If you're viewing this right now and you're thinking, okay, I'd love to share some energy giving activities with everyone, feel free to put in the chat box right now what those energy giving activities are, and I can say a few of them, or anonymously, I can say a few of them out loud. That way others can possibly hear what you're doing for your energy, and they can think, okay, maybe I should add that to my day. So if there's anyone that has any energy giving activities in their day, things that really light them up, give them energy, they really look forward to doing them in their day, feel free to put them in the chat box right here. Maybe it's every time you go to a certain store, an environment, you feel a jolt of energy. Maybe it's every time you're chatting with a certain someone, you feel a jolt of energy, a loved one, you feel a jolt of energy. And if that's the case, then maybe it's a matter of, hey, what if I talk to that loved one in any way I can during the day instead of just at the end of the day? Because if I can talk to them during the day, that might give me energy for the rest of my day. So again, just thinking all about being balanced with energy. So again, this slide, all kind of a self-reflective. Possibly everyone has some energy-giving activities. For timing, I'll say a few of them right here that we've got from audience participation here, which is amazing. Of course, exercising, listening to upbeat music, right? How amazing is it when you listen to a song and you're just like, yes, like I'm ready to go right now, and how that can sometimes change your whole day, the power of music. And then even, I love this one too, early morning showers too. Yeah, again, something that's it's all within our control in that case, right? An early morning shower. Okay, so our energy engagement map is our first aspect of work-life balance. And again, we'll keep things super practical. And what I wanted to share with everyone here too is the idea of our mindsets are actually thinking, you know, it's life is complex. We do have to do this, sometimes we have to do that. And I think that's totally okay, right? You can be a parent and a coworker and this and that versus thinking I can only be this, I can only be that. It's a matter of you can be those various different things, and then if you can integrate those things in any way, that's where you can kind of what some people almost call a smart cut. So not a shortcut, but a smart cut. So it's a matter of resisting either or thinking, trying to use the word and as much as you can. There's a self-reflective phrase here that goes, becoming or being an X allows me to be a better Y because X, Y, and Z, right? One of the most common examples is someone who's learning various types of leadership aspects in their workplace could also use those leadership tactics in some way, shape, or form at home to be the best parent they can be, or be the best sibling they can be, or husband and wife they can be. So it's a matter of, yes, things are complex, and there's always different aspects of family and personal development and adventure and health and our working lives. And so it's a matter of, yes, we need to acknowledge all these things exist and try to find areas that complement each other in find areas that do complement each other, finding common purpose or meaning across these different areas. So, a nice kind of seed to plant in our minds. Another tactic for work-life balance here, bringing this more from just a conversation, is the idea of saying no. But thinking about this strategically. Of course, you can see the photo here. If you remember anything from this webinar, it's the idea of, if you say no, is the idea of saying no and just thinking in your mind, being kind. But it's important for you to go into this thinking, okay, what is your no? What are your boundaries? How are you setting expectations, right? Getting super clear on that first. Even if someone asks you to do something and whatnot, and someone wants to include you here, or you're asked to do this, you're asked to do that, in some sense, because you're wanted, people want to be with you, or want you to be a part of something. So it's also sometimes acknowledging, hey, I appreciate you including me on this. I appreciate the exposure to this. I appreciate helping you in this regard. So it's appreciation for someone who's asked you to do something. Sharing with someone, hey, it's not that I sometimes don't want to do it. It's just that there's these other things that are coming up, and being transparent and sharing what those other things might be could help with situations as well. That way, when you say no, it's received by the other party in a healthy way. You can see being something standing your ground and definitely meaning when you say no, and that relates to number one of know your no. And then the idea of number 6 here is is, saying no to an opportunity isn't necessarily the end all and be all, because it's a trade-off to making yourself the time and space to then say to say yes to something else. So it's like a no today doesn't necessarily mean a no for tomorrow, let's say, right? And there's a really cool phrase that goes, the most important thing is keeping the most important thing most important. And sometimes to keep that most important thing most important, sometimes you do have to say no to other things in order to preserve your one important thing, something you might value more. So again, this slide's all about the idea of saying no, but definitely being strategic with it and thinking, of course, how is this being interpreted from the other party, and using this empathy, but in a way that's helping us be our best selves. And if we can do that, we can follow these steps, or even just do one of these steps, or keep a step in mind, we can then make sure that when we do say no, again, it's received in a healthy way by the other party. Because we can say no, we can then help with our work-life balance. Okay, here we go with another practical suggestion for work-life balance. We have the idea of sometimes it takes a village, doesn't it? And that's a common phrase. It takes a village sometimes. And so sometimes we are the ones who are reaching out for help and asking for help. And so this slide is all about when we're making requests to someone else, what are some things we can kind of keep in mind? Again, we're just kind of planting seeds in our mind and thinking, okay, work-life balance, things might be overwhelming. We might have to do this. What if we ask someone for support and we're making a request? What can we maybe keep in mind to help ourselves the most and set ourselves up for success the most? So kind of similar to the other slide about knowing your no, with this one, it's defining what do you want or what are you trying to do? Getting really, really clear on that. What is the request here? I need so-and-so to do this. I need them to do this. And so getting really clear on what do I want? What is going to help me right now? It's this interesting balance too between telling someone, hey, I need this, I need help with this, but also making sure we include their input and kind of that collaborative planning, sometimes it's referred to. And so rather than just making a request and not asking for someone's input, which perhaps could be thought of as like we're demanding things, it's a matter of, hey, I need this help, I need this support. Do you mind doing this for me? But also, like, what are your thoughts on this? Do you have any thoughts? Am I doing this right? Do you think there's another way I can go about this? So it's asking for someone's input, making sure they know that when they do help you out, what are the benefits for them? Because if they know that by them helping you out, they're helping you be the best you, have this work-life balance to then do some awesome things in your life. Because again, we want work-life balance to build up the time and space to do what we really want to do. We want to make sure they know that, hey, you helping me out is really doing this for me. This is why you're helping me out. This is why I appreciate it. And then lastly here, it's the idea of when asking for support or help from someone, especially even colleagues and whatnot, it's a matter of also, hey, need the support. And if kind of things are still kind of, we're unsure of things, let's treat it like a trial period or even like an experiment. So it's, hey, can you help me out with this project, support on this project? Let's do it this way for a week or so and then reevaluate after. And then, hey, I want your input after this first week and then going from there. Versus you never know, if you have a request to someone or you're asking them to support you and they're kind of unsure of the way that you might be doing it or what you're asking for, they might say no, knowing that if it's going to be like this permanently, that might not be something they want to get into. But if they know that, hey, we're going to do it like this, and then we're going to also adjust over time, almost like think of it like in project management, like agile thinking. So if we can be like, hey, I need this support, can you help me out with this? And it's still unsure, hey, let's see how it goes after the first day, after the first week. Let's readjust, and I want to hear your input, and then going over time to, again, that way whenever we request something, we kind of set ourselves up for success and help with our work-life balance. So some kind of mindset stuff there. The next slide is a slide that's, I think, a really cool concept for everyone to know and become familiar with. And that's the idea of sometimes you just have to plan an untouchable day. So this is a day, whether it's once a year, once a month, once a quarter, hey, even if it could be once a week for some individuals, it's a day that's your day. But the punchline of this is you're planning it in advance, right? So it's okay, 4 weeks from now, 1 week from now, you know, the second month of this quarter, I'm planning it right now. This is my untouchable flag. This is my untouchable day. And if I have to put my flag down and protect that day, that's what I'm going to do. But that's the day where I do me, my untouchable day. And sometimes that's when what it comes down to, just having a day where you don't have competing priorities, no spontaneous or ad hoc things coming up. And so it's the idea of planning an untouchable day to do some deep work if you need to, some deep thinking. And then if things do come up, if you have to switch things around, it's not a matter of canceling, but rather rescheduling. So, it's one of those things where, perhaps the idea of doing things for yourself is not new, but what might be new from this slide is the idea of, yes, planning that and putting that in the calendar, or letting other individuals know that this is my day, this is my chunk of hours, what have you, to myself. So planting your putting down your untouchable day flag and protecting it. Okay, so moving on here, work-life balance, more than a conversation here. Hopefully this is kind of some refreshing take on some of these tactics. Some of these tactics are hopefully realistic for everyone, and they're getting ideas for themselves to then have some more techniques that they can do for their work-life balance. The next one's all about too, it's the idea of sometimes it's easy to be hard on ourselves, and thinking when we're talking about work-life balance, it's not always, do we want to do something, we don't want to do something. It's the idea of putting not just the accountability on us, but putting the accountability also in our environment. And so what I mean by that is on this slide. And this slide is, there's two book references on this slide. One's, Crucial Accountability here. The other one's this awesome book called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. Actually, if anyone's already read these books, feel free to let me know in the through the questions, or even through the chat feature here. I'd love to know if anyone has already read either of these books. But what Crucial Accountability is all about is the idea, you can see here by the 1-2 there. It's that it's not always that someone doesn't want to do something or wouldn't do it. It's that sometimes like they can't do it, right? Their environment doesn't allow them to. An extreme example is this image here with a messy room. You can see that it's kind of hard to be healthy in a room like this, right? Even if you're like, hey, I want to put a treadmill in this room, or create a meditation corner, what have you. It's kind of hard when the environment doesn't support that. And so if we can not just put the accountability in ourselves and rely on just our motivation, but also our environment, and therefore creating the ability for us to do things in the first place, that's something that we can do to set ourselves up for success and get that much better at work-life balance. So it's a matter of, sometimes it's also the environment around us rather than just us, ourselves. And with that, the environment, cleanliness of the environment, and tidiness. So with this book, you can see this book's all about tidying up, but it's almost I look at it almost like a health book, right? Because this does have an impact on your health, and in this case through, I think, work-life balance. But when you're going through things, when you're trying to decide things and you are tidying up, a main question you can ask yourself, if you have a pen and paper right now, be, does this spark joy? So you're lifting up something. It might be a batch of papers, or it might be cups or Tupperware in a messy room, and you're thinking, does this spark joy? If it doesn't, possibly discard it or decide where it's going to go, and then going from there. So it's really this idea of cleanliness, our environment, being tidy, and not just putting the accountability on us, but also looking at accountability for the environment around us. And then another kind of, another area of work-life balance, another take on it, and then we're getting into some more healthy habit focused suggestions, is this idea of, and this is actually from health and safety, is anytime we're going about health and safety in the workplace, the most ideal scenario is to be at the top of this hierarchy of controls, because we want to just remove the hazard completely, right? That's the most ideal scenario. Of course, it's not always what's possible, but in a perfect world, we always try to eliminate first, right? Prevent first from happening. And then after that is one of those things where you go all the way down. And it's like, okay, we can't prevent something, but we can use PPE, or we can have certain types of policies or administrative controls here. And so in our lives, if we're thinking about work-life balance, and whether it's things that are stressing us out or things that we have to do and whatnot, it's one of those things where, we can put on all the PPE in the world, and that's totally okay. But could we do anything else? Could we substitute something? Could we kind of create a protocol around something? Could we eliminate something completely, right? And therefore help with our work-life balance. So this slide was all about just thinking, again, kind of our mindset, as the last slide even showed. It's not just us, it's our environment. And in this slide, it's yes, we can do everything right now and everything that we've been doing, but what about other types of actions, like eliminating something completely, like substituting something for something else? And so again, just food for thought in terms of thinking about work-life balance and thinking, okay, what might be most effective, and going from there. And when we do try to pick out what works for us. Okay, and the next slide here, as we move along here, so we're kind of getting now hierarchy of controls. Okay, I just mentioned the idea of like managing stress and how that ties into work-life balance. What also helps for work-life balance too is the idea of, so in this case, and actually everyone can, I put this resource in the handouts here for this webinar, so you can download one of the resources here called Plan for Resilience. And I really like this resource because it's for a given stressor, it shows, right? And I think part of work-life balance is managing stress. For a given stressor in your lives, there's actually 4 different options you can choose, okay? You can accept the stressor, avoid the stressor, alter the stressor itself, change the stressor itself, and then, or adapt ourselves, change ourselves in a way with the relationship to the stressor. And so these are the 4 A's. And of course, each A is appropriate in different situations. It's not that every situation you have to accept the stressor, or every situation you have to alter the stressor. Different situations for a different A to choose. But again, it's the idea of, when we come in contact with a stressor and we are thinking about our work-life balance, it's not just about avoiding things. It's not just about changing changing ourselves. It's also about, what if we just avoid something? And last slide showed elimination. Or what if we alter something itself? We're talking to someone, we're making a request, as we showed on the other slide, and we're trying to alter the situation to begin with, and things that we can do to help with our work-life balance. So that, again, it's a resource called Plan for Resilience. Even managers and people leaders on this webinar, sometimes individuals will go through Plan for Resilience with team members, and they'll create literally their own Plan for Resilience. The 4 A's here is just one slide and one aspect of the entire Plan for Resilience booklet, but a really, really popular booklet, really helpful booklet as well. And this one just showing the 4 A's. So again, we can accept the stressor, avoid the stressor, alter the stressor, adapt ourselves to the stressor. So the idea of how managing stress fits into work-life balance. And now, or on behalf of even the CG Zest Wellness program, one of the things that we offer is the CG Zest Wellness platform, which is a website as well as an app powered by Virgin Pulse. And I know a number of the individuals on here are already registered for it, which is fantastic. If anyone hasn't, the link is at the top there, joinzestwellness.com. And within the platform, we just talked about reducing stress, there's a feature called Journeys, as well as the healthy habits that are available through the platform. And again, it's the matter of we can actually use this to help with our work-life balance by focusing on the reducing stress journeys, or even for the reducing stress or being effective healthy habits that are available, all these different types of things. And I put on this slide here as well, the way that how the point structure works. You can see here it's set quarterly, so you can see for everyone that when individuals are completing the journeys feature or completing the healthy habits feature, you can see here as well the points that someone's getting on a daily basis, as well as on a quarterly or even a monthly basis. So every time that someone is engaging with journeys or healthy habits, they're certainly getting their points. Okay, so we're moving on here. We just talked about we're planting these different seeds for perspective. We talked about an untouchable day. We talked about motivation, versatility, and the tidiness in our environment around us, setting ourselves up for success. We talked about the hierarchy of controls, and ideally, what if we could eliminate something, or what if we can substitute something? We talked about plan for resilience, managing stress, and here in particular the CG Zest Wellness platform with the journeys and healthy habits that are available through Virgin Pulse. Now we're going to move on to another aspect of health, right, which is learning. And on the previous slide here, you can see again that's the reducing stress and being effective healthy habits. So in terms of learning and being effective, here's kind of like a matrix to think about to help with our work-life balance. Because when we're learning something new, it always seems to be a matter of, okay, like how much time does this take to learn this right now? And then how useful is it, right? And so if we can actually plot this on a matrix right here, you can see this is a resource from the Harvard Business Review. Because sometimes we want to learn everything. We want to keep getting better and keep improving and keep growing. But again, there's just sometimes so many hours in a day, so many other priorities that what if we could put this in a matrix and think about things strategically? And that's certainly what this slide's all about. So you can see in short, if something doesn't take too much time to learn, therefore we can get competent at it fairly quickly, and it's extremely useful, boom, that's what we want to learn right there. Maybe if something is very, very useful, but it's just going to take a longer time to learn, we can maybe plan around that, knowing that. Same thing, different situations call for, sometimes we might want to decide or ignore something, or sometimes we might just want to, if the chance comes up, or we're just kind of browsing or skimming something. It all depends on how much time does this take to learn, and then what is the usefulness of this as well. Because hey, if I could learn this, it's got high usefulness and it's actually relevant to many different areas of my life, that's amazing. That's how we talked about at the beginning of the webinar about finding areas of life that kind of complement each other with our work-life balance. So if things are useful and we can balance that with how much time it takes to learn, that is how we can make the most of our learning time. So for someone, work-life balance might not be necessarily about managing stress. They're okay with managing stress. Even on our next slides, we're going to do work-life balance. We're going to show the idea of exercise and nutrition. But maybe, individuals, they're okay with that. But maybe it's this slide, the idea of they just want to learn so much, they're trying to balance studying, and that's what's at the root of their work-life balance. That's why this slide is put in here in terms of making the most of your learning time and balancing the usefulness of what you're learning, the skills themselves, their usefulness, and then how long does it take to become competent with it. And with that said, this slide's all about learning, being effective. Before that was reducing stress and planning for resilience. Now we're going to get into actually a kind of a really neat topic, might be new for individuals, is the idea of exercise. But in particular, a certain type of exercise called high intensity interval training. And I'll explain these graphs here, but what you can see here, the first thing that might pop out is you can see atop each of these graphs, these images here, you can see it says total duration. So these, with high intensity interval training, you could look at workouts that are simply 30 minutes long, 20 minutes long. And the whole idea of high intensity interval training is rather than going for a 15-minute, half hour, hour long continuous exercise jog, let's say, or continuous exercise, weightlifting session, what have you. It's the idea of, if you are, running or on a spin bike or on a treadmill, ideally, it's the idea of, okay, going between high intensity work and recovery, work and recovery, work and recovery. So you can see what's shown on the left for a total duration of 30 minutes. You can see it's 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off. So imagine yourself on a treadmill or a spin bike. You're going 3 minutes as hard as you can, essentially, and then break for 3 minutes. And then 3 minutes again, and then break for 3 minutes, with that totaling 30 minutes. Or the option on the right, still again along the lines of high intensity interval training, we're going for 1 minute, as quick as we can, whether it's, again, treadmill, spin bike, what have you. We're going hard for 1 minute, rest for 1 minute. Hard for 1 minute, rest for 1 minute. Total duration for one like that could be, let's say, 20 minutes. So if it's 20 minutes, it'd be 10 times with that all-out minute-long sprints. And so what's interesting about this is that the duration of time is extremely less, but yet researchers are finding not only are the health benefits there, high intensity interval training can still give someone health benefits, but also, as the top of the slide here shows with the text, even if individuals are inactive to begin with, they're actually still enjoying this. It could be fun, this idea of saving time and also going all out, resting, going all out, resting. And so again, food for thought for everyone, but it's the idea of, okay, with working out, if working out, it's taking an hour, it's taking an hour and a half, 2 hours, or certain types of exercise routines, it could be just a matter of, keep exercise, but just switch the style of it to something like a high intensity interval training. That way you still get your health benefits, and you're still getting, as research shows, you're still enjoying it, but again, saving time, and that might help with work-life balance. So this is kind of the idea of bringing exercise into this and what could be done with that. Next is even the slide here to show with nutrition. And so for everyone, it's one of those things when we think about work-life balance, again, as the energy engagement map showed, sometimes it's one of those things where, oh man, sometimes we're getting so sleepy during the day and tired and fatigued, and so one of the reasons might be because of nutrition and what we're putting into our bodies. And so just to share one aspect of this for this webinar, we can think of a concept in nutrition called the glycemic index. So this shows us that not all foods are created equal. And so depending on what we put in our body for breakfast, for lunch, at work, or even in the evening, or snacks, it has an impact on our blood sugar. And so what if we're feeling fatigued, or what if we're feeling fatigued in a day, and it does happen to do with the foods we're choosing and where those foods lie on the glycemic index? Because if we can choose foods that are more ideal with their glycemic index score, and they give us a low glycemic index response here with the image on the right, that yellow, we can then not have these spikes in blood sugar and therefore feel and maintain our energy throughout the day and not get these blood sugar lows, and we feel tired and we can't do something, we'd have no energy. So it's the idea of what we put in our body matters. Not all foods are created equal. And if we could choose foods that are lower on the glycemic index, so low GI foods, then we can have a more favorable blood sugar throughout the day, and then therefore be our best selves during the day. And that's how we can have work-life balance. So hopefully that's helpful for everyone, because you never know, what if it's What if it's that certain type of lunch option that's just making us super tired? And if we could switch that up, because we still have to eat lunch, but if we can switch that up to a different type of food choice here, then we can have more, favorable nutrition patterns for a day, and how that ties to actually work-life balance and energy, and being our best selves and being productive, and accomplishing what we need to throughout the day. Okay, so we just did, we had our idea about learning and making the most of our learning time. We had the idea of exercise and thinking, okay, what about high intensity interval training? With this, we have the glycemic index and nutrition. So those are kind of our pure kind of health slides for this webinar. Our next webinar, part of the webinar we mentioned earlier, is going to get into the idea of, especially if anyone is a manager of any sort or a people leader, how work-life balance can be useful for their day. But before we do that, I'd love to hear from all of you. Here's a question, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this poll up right now, and everyone can let me know, because I'd love to hear from all of you. What words embody balance at work? What do you think? And here's a couple different options. The only one that's not on this poll, just because the program here couldn't, had just five choices, so I couldn't add understanding on there. But let's say we just take, hey, the first 5 there: flexibility, communication, thoughtfulness, kindness, empathy. I'd be super curious, and I'll share the results with everyone here. What are all you thinking about when it comes to what words embody balance at work? And then even thinking, okay, even in the context of teams and managers, how do we think we can go about this? And of course, hey, there's no wrong answer here, and I'm sure many of you in a good way are thinking, oh no, what about this one? What about this one? How could I choose just one? And just for the purposes of this, we are just choosing one, being just imagine all of them are perhaps certainly relevant. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to close this poll. I'm going to share the results with everyone, so everyone can see here. Flexibility, the first one there, is the word that all of you chose the most, and then you can see here you have thoughtfulness as the second one here. And that'll be, I think, relevant as we move forward to our last part of the webinar. So again, what words embody balance at work? And this one is all of the responses from all of you. So it was really nice to get that feedback. Okay, so now we are keeping the show going, and now it's all about, okay, so what does balance mean at work? Nate, what does this mean? Let's first start with the definition here. And so we have, a work environment where there's recognition of the need for employees to be able to manage the demands of work, family, and personal life. So definition of when you think about putting balance on the agenda, what could that mean exactly? And then individuals who are in a type of work environment that displays balance, you can just imagine in a hypothetical scenario from the second bullet point here and all the sub bullet points, these are the phrases that might be said, and I'm sure a number of these phrases resonate with everyone, right? It's the idea of I feel supported, I can talk to my supervisor, right? I think that's a massive one, right? My employer promotes work-life balance, and I know I'm reading these ones backwards here. I'm able to reasonably balance, and my employer encourages me. And so I think what you'll notice from this, it's this balance of what is my employer doing for me? How's my employer helping me? How's my employer supporting and communicating with me? But then also, that personal side of it as well is, what can I do? I feel supported. I am able to reasonably balance the demands of work and personal life. So it's this balance between, what are we doing for employees, and then our employees actually feeling indeed that support, right? Because if we're helping someone and we're supporting them, even if we think we're supporting them, we need to make sure, do they feel supported? It's about them and helping them. So how we define support and adequate communication can be different from how they define support or adequate communication. So again, just thinking of these phrases and thinking, okay, am I, would my team members say this? Would my department say this? And thinking about that in terms of putting balance on the agenda, getting real practical. And this is a handout as well in this webinar. It's a resource called Supporting Employee Success, a phenomenal resource. And it has 13 different factors for indeed supporting employee success, right? Whether it's even if an employee is in the return to work process, whether the employee is at a staying at work process, it's the idea of, okay, how can we use a document like this to help navigate this scenario? And so in this situation, it's a matter of, for job expectations, time pressures. And I picked time pressures from the supporting employee success. I thought that's relevant to balance and work-life balance. And how someone would go through this with these 2 pages for time pressures is, you can see there's 3 sections. So you have kind of the orange, the green, and then the blue. And so the orange is the employer or the manager, let's say, is picking out which one of these bullet points apply. The green, the employee is picking out which one of these bullet points apply. The blue is from what Supporting Employee Success calls a trusted advisor. This could be occupational representative, a union representative, health and safety representative, even someone just from HR, but doesn't have to be. And even if it's just the employer or manager and the employee using this, that's still a useful resource. And so what it's all about is ensuring that individuals are on the same page and really setting expectations. So for time pressures, it's what does the employer think the time pressures look like? What does the employee think the time pressures look like? And then creating dialogue around that. But sometimes it's a matter of different parties are just on different pages. And so this resource helps employers or managers and employees ensure that they're on the same page when it comes to time pressures. Is an employee able to maintain their work with deadlines, and are deadlines affecting their productivity or affecting their health? What does the volume of work look like? What does the pressures of work look like? And then, does the employer thinking, okay, this person can somewhat do this, they can reasonably do this, they're very good at this, they need improvement at this, what have you. But again, it's using a resource like this to really help kind of guide the way for all the different types of job expectations and factors that might exist. Again, in this case, time pressures, maybe for it's also other examples in supporting employee success is, attention to detail. Another one is focus. Another one is the physical demands at work, what have you. So again, this one's time pressures, and based on, for this webinar, the idea of balance. But hopefully, if anyone wants to download that resource off this webinar here, hey, the goal is for that to be helpful, and you can use that in your own way for sure. Okay, and then another idea is one of our last and final slides here about work-life balance, but from an employer perspective and with managers and leaders. Here's actually a really neat activity. So again, just super practical activity that can be done. And it's interesting too, because even another perspective on work-life balance is the idea of strengths. And so when someone can use their strengths during the day, they can then become more energized during the day and then help with work-life balance. Whereas if someone is not using their strengths during the day, then it's that much harder for them to be their best selves, and then their energy might be draining throughout the day, like we talked about earlier. And so it's the idea of actually finding your own, like your strengths is actually almost a healthy habit itself. And so then it becomes, okay, Nate, that's interesting, but how do I find, strengths of my team members and whatnot? And so here's a fantastic activity. And I can tell you myself, I remember I first did this activity and it was 2016. And I still remember it, and I want to share with everyone whenever we have this topic, because it was impactful for me. And so what if it's impactful for you and team members as well? So what it all is, hey, how do we acknowledge strengths with our teams? Because if we can get individuals to have their strengths acknowledged and to use their strengths that much more, it could help with work-life balance, And again, our domino effect of if it's better for work-life balance, it could be then better for practicing our different healthy habits and giving us the time and space to be our best selves. So we have here the idea of you have a meeting and you give everyone a piece of paper, and then everyone writes their own name in the middle of that piece of paper. Then when that piece of paper is passed around, each person anonymously is writing down either a quick phrase or even a single word to describe that person. And so you just imagine it's, I write my name down and pass it to the person to my left. So then they start, and then the sheet that I get to my right from someone, I'm getting someone and I'm writing, again, a quick phrase or a word that I think is their strength. And then I'm passing that to my left. Let's say if it's a circle, the sheets go around the circle. When you get your own sheet back is when the activity is done. So this piece of paper is going around the room. All team members and whatnot are writing something about that person, whoever sheet it is. And so what the goal of it is that you can just imagine when that sheet then comes back to you, and you can then see kind of what words your team members use to describe you in terms of your strengths. That could be a moment of amazing, in an amazing way of realization of, oh, like I was acknowledged this way, or someone thought this about me and they said this is this strength here. And then even if that could lead in any way, shape, or form to that person doing more of that thing, and let's say, for example, like right now, you could say, oh, Nate, you're public speaking right now. If I didn't know that I enjoyed public speaking, and then someone on my strength sheet wrote, Nate would be, public speaker, awesome public speaking, what have you. Then if I saw that sheet and public speaking wasn't too much of what I do in my day-to-day work, what if after seeing that sheet and talking to my manager, what if then public speaking did become a little bit more of what's in my scope of work or my job description? Then you could change the course of what that person does and how what their work days look like. And then now they're energized during their work days. They have that work-life balance, and you're really having an impact on someone just from acknowledging their strengths and using that as a way to help with their work-life balance. So a practical suggestion at that, the whole idea of, hey, finding our own strengths is a way to go about work-life balance, and we can do that certainly in positions of management and leadership. We can do that with our teams. So any activity that has to do with finding strengths. So with that said, if anyone has any comments and whatnot or questions, feel free to put them into the chat box here with a few more minutes. Always nice to share with everyone the wellness program that CG offers. For myself, very thankful to be a part of. CG Zest Wellness has a number of different digital resources, and whether it's the podcast as well, our Instagram, our Facebook page, our newsletter, and receiving these Win the Week newsletters each week, a snapshot and summary of different healthy habits and what's going on in the world of CG Zest Wellness. It's some really fantastic stuff. And all of our prior webinars as well that we offered to the general public too, all those recordings are on our YouTube page as well under CG Zest Wellness. And we've done webinars on almost pretty much all main health topics right now, right? Nutrition and financial wellness and physical activity and personal training and mindfulness. We've done an emotional health too. We've done a number of different topics on our prior webinars, and all those recordings are on our CG Zest Wellness YouTube page. So yeah, everyone, that's, hey, pleasure from my end for being able to deliver this webinar for all of you. And thank you to Miss Maria as well for giving us the opportunity and to indeed deliver this to all of you. So feel free to always reach out to us at CG, the Zest Wellness team, and we're happy to keep these conversations going. With the last thing being here, again, if everyone wants to download the handouts for this webinar, we have the Plan for Resilience handout, we have the Supporting Employee Success handout, And we also included the well-being calendar that we provided for September. So our monthly well-being wellness calendar there we have. So those 3 different resources in the handouts. So everyone, here's our last concluding slide, and we'll finish up here. Again, my name is Nathan Kolar from the ZG Zest Wellness team, and this one was all about work-life balance, more than a conversation, different perspectives, the employee, ourselves, and employer, management, leadership, and then most of all, getting super practical with these suggestions, and including the healthy habits side of things too. So everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. And again, a pleasure to connect with all of you.